Hello, hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Hi, Philip. How are you doing?
Good, nice to meet you.
It's very nice to virtually meet you as
Exactly,
well.
exactly. Yeah.
I love the background, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I think words to live by. I actually, most of the time, I hang out in my fantastic Budapest apartment, but sometimes I just want to ride a bike. So
I like it. I like it. I'm in the KW office, so.
exactly, exactly.
Awesome. Well, we'll have everybody seems like everybody's jumping on right now. So we want to give like 2 minutes and then we can go ahead and get started.
That's fine. And I've booked, I've got a block of an hour. I don't know how long you want to go, but whatever. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. No, we're very excited to have you.
Good. It's my pleasure to be here. Andrea, clean your camera.
Awesome. And then just so that I know, Philip, so that I can make sure you have that, do you have the screen share button at the bottom for you?
I do. Yep, I do.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, I know we'll probably have some people kind of trickling on, but I want to make sure that we honor your time, Philip. For everybody that I know we have some guests on the call, my name is Monica. I'm the team leader for Keller Williams Southeast Los Angeles in Downey. And I am so excited to have Philip joining us. Not only is he a mastery coach, he's also CEO Powered by Cloud Realty Group and part of the KW Speakers Guild. One of the things that I loved when I read a little bit about this particular topic is that I'm a big believer in the power of database. And I think now more than ever, we've been propelled into a time where database has become more important for all of us, right? We are at home, we're dealing with the pandemic, and the relationship that we have with our clients has not only become one of the most important things, but it's our biggest competitive advantage when it comes to some of the tech companies. And we've been given a little bit of a reprieve right now that they're kind of pushed out of the picture for a little while, right? So it's a really amazing opportunity. So I loved knowing that that was one of the things that was really important for you, was helping to propel people into business through the power of database. And for those of you on the call, Philip has sold over 1,300 homes and been a brokerage owner, a productivity coach, and a market center team leader. He also, you were on the Discovery Channel, right, for Buying Alaska,
Yes.
which is amazing, and has been featured on multiple news outlets. So I am extremely excited to have you here, Philip. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Absolutely, my pleasure entirely. Yeah, that's thank you for the introduction. That was awesome. So yeah, cool. So we're just, I'm going to jump right in, and please, everybody, I'm just going to ask that you keep your mics open, because this actually works better as a discussion than a lecture. I'm happy to talk. And as Monica said, I did TV for a number of years and am happy to just wax on, but it works better if you challenge some of the assumptions that are in here. And there might be things that are a little bit controversial, or at least different from what you've heard before. And jump in, let me know, and because I want you to leave with maybe not a new way of approaching business, but a different perspective on how to build a business that is sustainable and durable, regardless of what happens. Because the one question, or one of the things I'm going to ask you to do, is assume that the way we're doing business right now on the 20th of April, 2020, assume that this is the new normal. Assume that nothing ever goes back to, quote, the way it was. Because the way it was wasn't the way you think it was anyway. It was different from that. But But assume that this is the new normal. Assume that there are technology opportunities that have been presented to us and responsibilities that have been laid at our doorstep to build even stronger relationships with the clients in our database, because that's what it takes to do business right now, regardless of whether in a corona environment or a shifting economic environment. We'll see that fundamentally, I believe that the database is the way forward. It's the way it's always been. We got away from it for a little bit, and I think we have to go back to the way things were. So I am going to share my screen, and if, let's see, let's do this and this, and somebody give me a thumbs up. You see it? Perfect. Okay. So these are the strategies to build a better business, and it's 400, 2.5, 500,000 a year. You can do the math in a lot of ways. These are the numbers that I kind of build today on. And we'll spend a lot of time there. Before we get to that, that's me. Again, my contact information is at the bottom. If you want to screenshot that or send me an email, I love questions and I'm happy to reach out. I do run Powered by Cloud and Cloud Realty Group here in Anchorage, also a MAPS coach and founder of KW Speakers Guild. So that's me. That's 50 years summarized in one screen. And what I was saying just a little bit ago is that fundamentally, this is my perspective and how it shapes the next 35, 40 minutes we'll spend together. I believe everything that we do as realtors can be copied, improved on, or replaced entirely by technology, other than the relationships we have with the clients in our database. So if everything else that we do can be made better, can be stolen, or can be outsourced to technology, everything we do needs to focus on building the relationships we have with the folks in our database. And in fact, if we do that, we can build a durable competitive advantage in our business and move forward. And the math is pretty simple. We'll get into it, but it begins by following. In order to make the math work, you have to follow these 5 C's. I call them the big 5. And the first one is that I'm going to encourage you to stop generating leads. Stop lead generating. Start building relationships. Think of the time that you spend in lead generation as relationship building time, not just chasing after the next new deal. Okay. The second thing is that I'm going to encourage you to get choosy. That'll make sense in a second, I promise. The third C is to communicate often and simply. I think we're moving into an environment where we have to practice high frequency, low velocity communications. In other words, more often with softer messages. Number 4, we do have to connect meaningfully with our people, not just connect in a superficial way. And then the final thing is that we do actually have to close for the business. Even though we're talking about a relationship based and database based business, you actually have to close, or as Ted Turner would say, you have to ask for the order. But we need to do it in a way that respects where people are, especially right now in a COVID and post-COVID environment that we'll be in for the next few weeks and months. Okay, so the first thing is, let's do the math, right? Does this approach make sense? And I think the answer is yes. Okay, the first assumption that we make is that you are skillful enough to close business at the same ratio that Gary said we could in the MREA. It's the 12-to-2 ratio. For every 12 people in your database, you should expect 1 closing and one referral that leads to a closing if you communicate systematically. That's page 186, 187. So nothing that I'm suggesting requires you to be any better a realtor than what Gary said we all should be, but it does require you to be at least that good. And I know you all are. Okay. So the second thing is, if we take that closing ratio and we say, let's look at 400 people, not even 500, let's say 400 people. If you convert at 12-to-2, which is 16.7%, 400 people at 16.7% conversion is 67 sides. Those 67 sides, if you average $250,000 in sales price and a 3% commission, is $502,000 a year. Okay, so that's how 400 people gets you to $500,000. If you follow this prescription: 40 automatic touches plus 4 events. Those things take no time because they're done automatically. And we'll get to the events piece in a second as well. And I do want you to push back on that, because people say, how can an event take no time? Well, if you're doing an event and it takes a disproportionate amount of time, I'm going to suggest you're doing the wrong event. Okay. The thing that takes time is the phone calls and the relationships with the people in your database. If you make 4 phone calls a year, that's calling through your database every 13 weeks. And this is simply going to the DTD2, the do the database to. That math, again, is nothing extraordinary, but it's calling through your entire database 4 times a year, which is once every 13 weeks. 400 people every 13 weeks is 31 people per week. And if you have a 5-minute conversation, which is all that is required if you're actually maintaining a high level of contact. If people are used to hearing from you, you don't have to have a long conversation, right? That's 2.5 hours a week. So 400 people, 2.5 hours a week, $500,000 a year. Okay, that's the math behind it. Any questions on that before we go forward? Anybody want to challenge me on whether the numbers make sense?
I love it. I'm just going to note our price point is about twice as much as that. So guys, look at what that really looks like from an income perspective.
Yep, absolutely. You can cut the people in half. You can double the income. You can do the math in any way you want to. And that's the power. That's the beauty of being in a high price point market. You even need fewer people and less time. Now, it might be harder to build deep relationships, but that's all you need. Yeah.
Philip, can you also speak to the 16.7%? I think that there's probably some people on the call that are thinking like, I have to be a superstar agent, and there's no way I can make $1 million at a $500,000 price point with 400 people. I think you're going to have that disbelief because they're thinking that somehow you have to be an incredible closer or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question, Rich. So what we said, so the 12-to-2 ratio is, just to go back there, for every 12 people in the database, if you communicate systematically, Gary found, and these are just real numbers from normal realtors, when he was doing the research for the MREA, Gary found that if you communicate with 12 people systematically, and systematically is what we described, you would expect 1 transaction for every 12 of them over time. Okay. That is pretty typical. That's pretty common. So in the database business, when we run the numbers, and when you look at your own conversion ratios, my suspicion is that you are probably closing 1 deal for every 10 to 15 people in your database. Truly, people in your database, probably 1 in 10 to 1 in 15. Where the 12-to-2 falls apart for some people is in the referral ask. And that's where the ordinary realtor becomes exceptional. It's in consistently and systematically asking for the referral in a way that honors the relationship that you've built. Now, there are realtors who will do much more business from far fewer people. Those really heavy closers, or those really folks who really have a database that absolutely is full of people who are connectors in a community and refer more business out. But this is not 1 in 12 is common. What is less common is the 2 in 12, and it's usually the referral piece that's missing. Does that make sense, Rich? I don't know if I answered your question really, but yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Yes.
Super. So if you add up all of that, it just goes back to the Gary Keller quote. You build a database. What's the job of a realtor? To build a database, communicate with it frequently, and service every lead that comes your way. That's Ignite fundamentals. And that's what we're talking about. Now, the first thing I'm going to challenge you to do is this idea of stop lead generating, but start building relationships. The first thing, in order to get that conversion ratio that we were just talking about, you actually have to have clients, not just customers. Customers are there for the transaction. Clients are there for the relationship, there for the long haul. And so for some folks, you know, how do you get to 400 client level interactions? One of the first things most people need to do is actually consolidate all of the places where they've got information on potential clients. Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Gmail, Outlook, Grandma's Christmas card list, all of that stuff. We usually have plenty of people. They're just squirreled away in different sources, in different pots. And we need to, the first thing that you need to do in order to build a high functioning, high power database is actually consolidate them all into one spot. Scrub and organize them and put them into a single CRM, a single source. I don't care what that is, though I would encourage it to be command. And that way you have, that's the first step. That's the foundation in building a database, is actually getting everybody into one spot. And I'm going to encourage you then to focus on the top 300, 400, 500 folks in there, specifically closed transactions, orphan clients, all your past deals, vendors, referral partners. Get them all into one place and understand that the mission to have the 500,000 or $1 million a year real estate business is to get 400 people that will absolutely pick up the phone when you call, that are excited to hear from you, that want to engage with you. That's a client. A customer or a name in a database, somebody that tells you to pound sand when you pick up the phone and call them, that's not the level of relationship that we're talking about, okay? So the second thing is then to choose your VIPs. So you've gathered everybody together. You have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 names. The second thing is to get choosy and choose your VIPs. VIPs meet there are three basic criteria, and they come from 4 different sources, right? VIPs are folks who do business with you, who will send business to you, and who look forward to your call. And that's the group that we pour our time, money, and attention into, okay? Now they're gonna come from, as I said before, gonna come from your sphere of influence, your circle of influence. Going to come from past sellers. And the other group or groups that you might put into a VIP list are those folks who, again, we're looking for people who are going to convert at that 12-to-2 ratio. There are people in your circle, in your sphere, like investors, real estate owned, you know, the bank reps, builders, folks who might do more than one transaction a year. That's the other piece of the 12-to-2 ratio. Who are those folks that will affect more than one transaction? Do you have a home buyer that is looking to develop their own investment portfolio? Awesome. They absolutely have to be on that VIP list. So the first thing is understand that we're in the client creation business. The second thing is that it's okay to say that not all clients are created equal. So get choosy. Any questions on that? Does it make sense? Okay. The third thing is then to communicate with them often, okay? And the purpose of communication is to build the relationship, not just to affect the transaction. Relationship building, begins with one non-negotiable fact, and it's you gotta call them 4 times a year. 4 conversations a year, it is non-negotiable. That means once every 13 weeks, you are in touch with your people just simply to say hello, right? That is a non-negotiable starter. Now, the next thing is to exhibit your real estate expertise, to be the local expert, the economist of choice. Personally, I think command is the easiest way for you to exhibit that, because once you have everybody's contact information into your CRM, which is all part of the consolidating and scrubbing step, the first phase, you've got the neighborhood information. You've got where they live. It also gives you the opportunity to have the phone call and say, hey, this is Philip Alderfer, Cloud Realty Group at Keller Williams. We're just reorganizing our records. And I wanted to ask, Rich, a really quick question. If you were to receive real estate information from us, would you be more interested in information on where you live now or where you would move to? Which would help you the most, right? And they say, yes, no, maybe. Rich, what would you say?
Where I want to move next.
Where you want to move next. Where would you, if you could move, where would you move?
I would move to Colorado.
Colorado. What part of Colorado?
I'd like to move to the Durango area.
Oh, I love Durango, like Durango, Silverton, that southwest corner. Beautiful.
Right.
Do you know where in Durango you would move to? I know that's a specific question.
There's an area called the Ranch.
The Ranch. Got it.
Ranch community, right?
Yeah, awesome. See, the thing that the reason I ask is that a lot of realtors are stuck using only MLS level data, multiple listing system data, which might cover a broad section of town, South Durango. What we have access to are actually neighborhood by neighborhood information. And so we can begin to pinpoint for you, what's happening in the Ranch versus Golden Dale versus Oak Lawn, et cetera, et cetera. So that's cool. Would it be helpful, in addition to the Ranch, would it be helpful if you did get information on what was happening in your current neighborhood?
Sure, absolutely.
Awesome. So what I'm going to do is set up 2 simple searches. It's just going to be an email. You'll get it from me every month. If you've got any questions on that, please let me know. Is that okay?
Sure, it'd be great.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Good to talk to you.
You too.
Click. Right. So the connection call cements not only where they're going, where they are now, where they're going. I didn't ask about time frame. That was a bad shame on me, but ask about time frame so you have some sense of it. And now I'm the economist of choice. I'm the local expert because they're getting hyper local real estate information that I don't have to think about. I'm not preparing a CMA for them. I'm not thinking about updating their house, any of their records. It's not analog, it's digital because the system is doing it for me automatically. Now, the second piece of third piece of frequent communication, the second automatic one, is an additional monthly email that's just a light touch. I like holidays because everybody likes holidays, so they're kind of easy. And in my world, when I say holidays, I use off-brand holidays. Everybody and their brother does Christmas and New Year's and Thanksgiving and all that stuff. I used to live right against the ocean, and so we would do things like National Coast Guard Day and Camping Day and take your daughter to work day, stuff like that, because no realtor is competing against you for messaging at that time. Everybody's doing Christmas and New Year's. Nobody is doing National Donut Day or Beer Day or Hot Dog Day. So, but the holiday message that's what I mean when I say holiday message. It's just a fun and friendly email, which has nothing to do with real estate, but it's coming from your imprint as a realtor. Your signature block is at the bottom, and it's just the soft, high frequency, low velocity, soft touch that reminds them that in fact you are in real estate. Now, the third automatic touch is a text message. And I think the text messaging that works really well is, hey, this is Philip. Sorry I missed you. It's July. That means State Fair is coming up. I'll be there the weekend of July 17th. Hope to see you. Talk soon. Bye. Right? Done. You can set up and automatically program systems like Twilio and others, easy texting, to send 12 automatic text messages a year. The same thing can be done with voicemail, which is the other piece of it. Set up Sly Broadcast to send 4 automatic voicemail messages. Hey, Philip here. Sorry I missed you. Hope you're doing well. Have a great weekend. I look forward to our next conversation. Bye. Right? And the final piece of the communication plan are at least 4 micro events. And by micro events, I mean high visibility, high impact, low cost, low effort. So high visibility means they have a high social media quotient. They're easily seen. There's the sort of thing that people are going to share with their friends. High impact means they actually make a difference in their life. no one really cares if they get a pie at Thanksgiving or not. Pie is great. Everybody likes pie. But if they didn't get one, meh, doesn't really matter. What you want are those events that if they were not, if you didn't do it, would cause someone to pick up the phone and ask why not. Okay? When you get people used to the idea that, and this is, bear with me because this is a gross example, but it's really powerful. If you live in an area where the snow flies, in Alaska it certainly does, everybody's dog runs outside in the winter, and by the time spring comes around, the yard is full of dog poop. And it's horrible. But it is great when it gets cleaned up. And when you are the one who sent the guy to their house to clean up their yard on behalf of the company, you've just made a relationship that they're going to miss next year if it doesn't happen at the same time. That's what I mean by high impact. High visibility, high impact. Oh my gosh, look at what my realtor just did for me. And I don't know exactly what that would be in your world, that you have to know what your clients like and what the, you know, what the community need is. But you want your the event to be something that they would miss if it was gone. High visibility, high impact, low cost. It should, you're not, you know, hosting a formal ball for 500 people. And low effort, as in it should take none of your time. You write the check and receive the credit. You show up at the event. And if you're planning it, if you're agonizing over the invitations, it's too complicated. It's too much. It doesn't get done. Because again, we're building high frequency, low velocity interactions. And then finally, call everybody on their birthday, because everybody loves a birthday call. I mean, let's be real. Okay, so number one, we're going to consolidate and create clients. We're going to get choosy. We're going to communicate often, and we're going to connect better. The fourth step, right? This is following the national trend towards shunning the label. Look at all of the things that are boutique and handcrafted and Etsy and small and local. People are shunning the brand, and they're going to the maker. The maker in a real estate transaction is you. So focus on the person, not the transaction. Authenticity is critical. Be yourself. Be who you are. If you're funny, be funny. If you're serious, be serious. And look for social proof. Solicit reviews and referrals, because people want to know who made a thing, and they want to know that whoever made it, that their friends and family would also buy that thing, right? And again, that's the power of sites like Etsy and Pinterest. They're resonating with something sort of deeply human, right? And again, just going back to the idea of the events as a connection strategy, the events should be small and meaningful, not large and overdone. You're much better off having 4 or 5 events a year at which 10 or 15 people show up, but you actually have a conversation with them, than one event at which you have 200 people show up, half the people come in, eat your food, drink your booze, they leave, and you never see them. You never have a conversation. You've missed the opportunity to build a relationship. Then the final thing is to ask for the order carefully, because you don't want your client to look at you like that kid is looking at you right now, right? And so some of the scripts that I like around this are simple ones. What are your real estate plans for the year? We're happy where we are. Awesome. That is fantastic. Sorry, that's not the reason I was asking, or not the question I was asking. What I meant is, are you planning on doing anything to the house? Any improvements, any changes, any renovations that we might be able to help you with? Because we're connected to a network of great vendors and providers that give discounts to our clients. So if you're doing any, interior work or renovations or painting, landscaping, working on the pool, please let me know, because I want to be a resource to you. That's one variation on the soft close. Another soft close is, hey, my goal is I'm just connecting for a real simple question. My goal is to help you build legacy wealth through great real estate investments. So first of all, do you think your current home is helping you build wealth now and into the future? And if not, should we talk about that? And secondly, is there anyone else working with you to build long-term wealth? And what are the plans around that? Right? That's a very different conversation than who do you know that wants to buy, sell, or invest in real estate. Now, a third way, a third version of this is to future pace them. If you could choose to live anywhere in the world, where would it be? It was the conversation we were just having with Rich. And then make sure you get the time frame. And when would that be? When would you like that to happen? The reason we ask, sorry, went back to, I'm going to take a step back. The reason the frog is there is that every conversation could follow that frog or that Ford analogy. Frog being family, recreation, occupation, goals. Ford is family, occupation, recreation, dreams. They're just shorthands, mental shorthands for connecting first with family, then work, and then something else that's meaningful to them. And when you connect with family, then you know how to ask for the order later. Because if a year or 2 years ago, you asked the question about family and you kept good notes, and you know that their daughter is getting ready to go to college, and when they said when that happens, they would be ready to downsize because now all the kids are out. Now you know how to carefully ask for the order. Hey, Mark, I know that your daughter's going to school. And a bit ago, we talked about the fact that when that happened, you might want to downsize. Is that still in your plan? I don't want to, push you into that if that's not something you want to do, but I do want to be here to help if downsizing is still in the books for you in 2020. You're still asking for the business. You're just not punching them in the face with it. So it's jab, 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 right hook, as Gary Vaynerchuk used to say. So be aware of family changes. Those are the 5 C's to build $1 million real estate business with 500 people, right? And what I hope you walk away with is this, right? The market share I gain in a shift, I will not lose. And the market share I lose in a shift, I will not regain. And the way I will prevent myself from losing market share is by building deep, rich, meaningful connections with people in the database, following a plan and a pattern to get there. Does that make sense? Any questions for me? That's
Absolutely.
the sermon. Yeah. And again, that's my contact information at the bottom.
Awesome. Thank you. I love everything you said about building the database. And the one thing I want to highlight, because I say this all the time when I'm talking with someone, is a lot of times when people come to the class, I'll ask, are you here because you don't like making calls? Because no matter what, that's the requirement, right?
Yep.
Is we have to be making those 4 calls. I'd love to open it up for questions. You guys are on mute right now, so you will have to unmute if you want to ask a question. And let me actually go ahead and I'm gonna unmute you guys, so you should get a prompt.
What happens to everybody's iPads? Is my
Oh.
The earbuds?
Yeah.
Well, they move them around.
Uh-oh. Let's see, any questions that we have? Well, I would love to know, Philip, can you share a little bit more when you were building up, what is the size of your database right now? And then can you share a little bit about, I know you mentioned the one event, is that one of the events that you do? Can you share a little bit of insight into the other 3? Because I thought what you said about the events being less effort was really impactful, right? Because we have agents that definitely do a lot of events. And I think we accidentally got you on mute, Philip.
Oops.
Yeah, there you
go. There we go. Okay. Yeah. So in terms of database, so there are 2 basic basically two databases that I have right now. There's everybody, and I still communicate with those folks via email, just a simple text, text email, and it's my version of the old school 12 direct mail piece. That goes out to about 15,800 folks. But when somebody says, how many people do you have in your database? I say 780, because that's the size of people that I make the level of effort that we were just talking about with. Now, because of coaching and other requirements, where I fall down is on the quarterly calls. So I have to bump up with voicemail in order to offset the fact that sometimes my schedule won't let me make 55 calls a week, which seems like an incredibly low amount. But if I did that, I would be able to communicate with everybody that I need to. But 55 to 60 it can be tough. And so I have to compensate that with voicemail. So for me, it's 780. But when we did 53 million in 2018, that was with a database of, give or take, yay, phone call. That was with a database of about 1,400 people on the cloud side then, plus our agents. Part of what we do, what we do for Powered by Cloud is what we did for our team members, which is help our team members consolidate, scrub, organize, and then communicate systematically with their folks. So they were not in our team database. Now, the events that we used to run, we would do things. I loved, you saw maybe earlier that the screen that I had behind me about riding bikes and having fun. So one of the things that we did was at least once a year, we would do a community bike ride at this outdoor mountain bike trails. So I would pick up the phone and I'd call a friend of mine who owns the Trek dealership here in Anchorage. And I'd say, Bill, I need a dozen rental mountain bikes out at Kincaid Park. And I'd pick up the phone and I'd call Yeti Dogs, the hot dog folks. And I'd say, I need you guys, bring the Yeti Dog truck out to Kincaid. And we'd send out invitations. And all I did was write the check and go bike riding. And that was it. But what it did, that was an example of something where we could bring people together. We could provide an activity, have fun doing it, but I didn't have to do tons and tons of work. Then the quarterly call, the voicemail, the text mail drop. Hey, everybody, don't forget, it's Bikeathon at Kincaid, July 14th. I'll look forward to seeing you. Text message. Voicemail. Hey, everybody, Philip here, Cloud Realty Group. Bikeathon, July 14th, Kincaid Park. I look forward to seeing you. By the way, we will have rental bikes courtesy of Bill and the great crew at Trek. So they were getting free publicity. They were getting 1,400 voicemail drops in, advertising their service. I was still going to have the conversation with my clients. It just gave me an opportunity to talk about something. So it wasn't new. It was my 2.5 hours of lead gen a week. It wasn't on top of what we would be doing automatically. Now, Bikeathon was a big one. Micro events that we do are things like I love you a latte at the coffee shop. And that's always around Valentine's Day. I got this one coffee shop that I love to hang out at, and I would hang out there anyway. So I love you a latte, the February voicemail and text message was, hey, everybody, I love you a latte. Coffee's on me. February 12th, Black Cup, 341 East Benson. See you there between 9 and 11. And if anybody showed up, great. And if nobody showed up, it didn't matter because I was still going to go there and get coffee. And what it gave me was a soft touch that had in the client's mind, nothing to do with real estate. Now, when we're there, people are talking to me because they're real estate clients. Right? We're in the coffee shop together because we did a transaction together. So that was another example of all I needed to do was give the coffee shop my credit card when it was done. And so I bought 50 cups of coffee. Okay, that's fine. $200. I was never going to bankrupt myself. I didn't have to do any planning. I gave a really generous tip to the person at the counter so that I got the big table where I wanted to sit, and they would put a little reserved sign out for it. So it was, $50 to the barista at the counter and then $200 worth of coffee. That was the extent of planning that I had to do. I just had to voicemail and text message, and then my quarterly calls for those, that quarter. Don't forget, I love you a latte is coming up. So things like that were the things that we tried to focus on. And when people, again, people like getting a pie, they like getting a calendar, they like getting a magnet, they love getting their coffee that they chose when they want it. And if they like you, which they do because that's why they're working with you, right? That's why they go be authentic. They like you, they would go out and have coffee with you anyway. It became self-sustaining, right? And it wouldn't matter if there were only 6 or 8 or 10 people there. There were usually more than that, though.
I love that. That's really powerful. Especially, we have agents that will do client events like renting out a movie theater and doing a movie day, or different things like that. And I love the idea of this kind of micro event with that low effort and then having high impact, especially from a scalability perspective as businesses continue to grow. Right?
Correct.
So I think that's awesome. I'd love to know. So right now, one of the things that I think is really interesting with our market, specifically with the impacts of COVID, can you share some of what you're doing right now to pivot your business, or some of what your team has put in place? And given we're at a Safer at Home right now order, I'm not sure if you guys are as well. And okay, great. So I'd love to know, any insight into what you guys are doing right now to pivot, or tips that our agents could potentially implement.
Sure. How many folks are trying to do virtual open houses right now? Anybody? Yes? Anybody? Few? Anybody?
There's definitely some on the line.
Yeah. Okay. So here, one of the things that I think COVID is presenting us is an opportunity to reimagine what an open house is. We actually wrote this up, the MAPS clients that I have, and I did a mastermind around it. And we came up with 7, 8 different strategies for managing a virtual open house. But fundamentally, here's the suggestion that I would make. If you're doing a virtual open house the way that you would have done an open house before, just with a camera following you around, you're missing an opportunity. And the opportunity is to actually reimagine what the open house experience is like. I would go so far as to say, if you're just walking around a house for 2 hours hoping that somebody's going to show up on social media and watch you, you're doing it wrong. So rather take what you've been given. Don't waste a good crisis. And ask yourself the question, how would I make $1 million? How would I run an open house if I literally could not leave my living room or my home office, right? So firstly, we came up with, this was the alternative. This was the strategy. Rather than build an open house where you're going to have a virtual open house, quote unquote, for an hour or 30 minutes or 2 hours on a Saturday afternoon. Have an open house that is open 24/7, okay? And that means it's probably 8, 10, 12 really good, but really short videos of every aspect of the home. You've got an introductory video. You've got one that focuses on the kitchen. You've got a separate video that focuses on the master suite. You've got a separate video that focuses on the bedrooms. Living rooms and common areas, outside, and the neighborhood. Ideally, you would be the one in those videos filming yourself as if you were walking through the home with a buyer. Nobody spends the money with a great professional photographer and videographer opening drawers. But you could with your iPhone, because the camera quality is just as good and it's cheaper. And right now, no one expects that it's going to be polished and professional because we're all shelter in place. The rules are different. So build your video library and host it on something like YouTube, and build one main introductory video. Again, just suggestions, but build one main introductory video with the home address. And the reason is that because Google owns YouTube, anybody who types in 1234 Main Street, 582 West Cabrera, they're going to get that video first because of the way the Google search engine works. So that video is going to take them to the library in which they see 6, 8, 10 different videos of different aspects of the house. Second step is you post all of the disclosure information plus a pre-listing building inspection plus a pre-recorded Zoom call that you conduct with the building inspector on a site like Disclosures.io. That requires forced registration, so you've got client capture. And now you've got video and lead gen combined. You also, one of the other videos that's great to film is an interview with the homeowners themselves. The homeowners in their home, you are in your home office having the conversation with the seller about what they liked. And don't be shy about asking the seller what they would have changed. If they were to live there for another 2 or 3 or 4 years, what would you have changed? What would you have made different? What would you have done better? Because the buyers are going to ask the same questions of themselves when they go do a home tour anyway. So you might as well ask now. So you build a comprehensive video library. You build a lead capture system in something like Disclosures.io. You do a pre-listing building inspection. You disclose that. You do the video. And then you build a social media campaign around your, quote, virtual open house, which is you doing a 30-minute Q&A session 2 or 3 times a week on all of the stuff that you have listed. Hey everybody, Philip Alderfer here, Cloud Realty Group. Today's open house day, we're gonna focus on homes with swimming pools. So if you're interested in a house in Downey that's got a pool, this is the day for you. Now, if you've not seen all the videos, they're available on our YouTube channel, cloudrealtygroup.com, blah, blah, blah. And today we're just going to do a live Q&A. So if you've got any questions, let me know. In the meantime, I'm going to share with you the Matterport. We're going to navigate through the Matterport video, the 3D the video rendering, and show you some of the great features of our extra special house that we've got on tour. In other words, if you're using new technology to deliver an old product, you're doing it wrong. So use new technology to deliver a product a new way, the product being the open house. How do you have 6, 8, 10 open houses a week? Well, if you're doing it with yard signs and you can't. You just can't. If you're doing 10 a week because you're doing three Q&A sessions in which you're covering 2 or 3 or 4 houses at a time, you can do things differently. That is one example of the pivot that I think some folks are making in a COVID environment. So ask yourself, what would I have to do at every business, every stage of the business? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's really powerful, right? Because I think that exactly what you said when you opened the call today is you said, what would it look like if this was the new normal? And I'm a believer that right now, well, it's business as usual, it's done in an unusual way. And, you know, where it's stay at home until the 15th. And this business, now that our sellers, our buyers have been given a taste of what this virtually looks like, right? They're going to want this moving forward. And so I definitely believe this is our new normal in terms of how it comes from a delivery perspective. We do have 2 questions. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute Ralph. Ralph, do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Phil, for this. Great stuff. Question is going back to events. Mm-hmm. In today's world, like right now in COVID-19 world, what kind of event would be best?
Yeah, so I right now, with shelter in place and saver at home, I think we're kind of limited to what we can do with technology. So I think there are some things that are really clever. So in addition to all of the things that folks are doing on Zoom with, Zoom happy hours and Zoom game nights and technologies that let people say, watch the same movie at one time. Right? And nobody's doing door drops, but I'm waiting for somebody to do a door drop with, microwave popcorn and a box of Mike and Ike, the movie size candy. Do a door drop with all of that stuff to 10 friends and then use like Netflix rooms or Netflix groups to watch one movie at the same time. That is one thing. Another thing, nobody's doing it in Alaska yet because it's still too cold, but an alternative to the like the Santa photography party, how are we gonna is to do porch photos? How are we gonna memorialize this weird moment? And by weird moment, I mean these 2, 3, 4 months when we're all sort of stuck at home. So why not send your photographer, who's not doing listing photos, by the way, because I know what's happening with listing inventory around the United States, right? So your photographer is bored, send them out to all of your clients. So a Facebook post would go something like this. Hey, everybody, this is Ralph Keller Williams. I'm just reaching out. If you or anyone you know is missing having their school photos taken or simply wants to memorialize this weird event, please be on your porch between 5 and 5:30 on Tuesday evening, because my photographer is going to come around and he's doing family porch photos from the curb, and we're going to send them to you when you're done. Pick your theme. I don't care. Confirm with me, though, that you do want a family photo taken, and we're going to get them out. We're going to get the photographer out to you, and then like, post, and share the photos once you get them, and the turnaround should be, 72 hours. And all of a sudden you've got, again, it's not about doing that to 15,800 people. I couldn't even do that to 760. And you might even go neighborhood by neighborhood. Hey, everybody, the photographer is going to be in Mountain View. And it's that kind of stuff. Use technology use COVID to create fundamentally new types of interactions. Use the what we were forced to do to create fundamentally new types of interactions. We, in my personal family, we do a thing called First Friday Sunday Supper, right? First Friday is, a lot of communities have art openings and gallery events, that kind of stuff, the first Friday of every month. So to continue the fun of a First Friday weekend, our family has Sunday supper on First Friday. So we'll have 2 or 3 or 4 families over on Sunday night for early Sunday dinner, potluck dinner at our place. We put something on the grill, they bring something else. Well, we can't do that now, but we can still do First Friday Sunday supper with 2 or 3 or 4 families on a Zoom call on a Sunday night. And if you've got a client level relationship with 150, 250, 350 people in your database, it is not unusual for you to make that call. If you have a customer level relationship with 250 people in a database, that's as weird as it gets. I don't want to have dinner with my realtor's family. That's dumb, right? That is a measure of the health of your relationship with your database. If you called and said, hey, Ralph, Philip here, I'm just reaching out. I know we've not done Sunday supper in a while. Can you guys join us on a FaceTime or a Zoom call? And they say, absolutely, that'd be great. Okay, now you know you've got a client level relationship with that person. Does that make sense? Does that help?
Absolutely, that's powerful.
Thank you.
Awesome. We have one last question. This was a clarification question from Vicky. On the 400 contact sample, are those people that are already on, that have already been touched 33 times or an 8x8? And are those individuals you already have a relationship with?
Yeah, so the first step, sorry, thank you for that. So the first step of consolidation and scrubbing is to wrap your arms around all of the people that could possibly be in your real estate world, right? And then get choosy to choose your 400. And those are people that you either have that relationship, that level of deep relationship with, or you want to develop that relationship with over time. And it's totally understandable to say, look, of the I'm targeting 400 people in order to hit my business goals, and I've got a deep level of relationship only with 175 of them. So over the next 6, 12, 18 months, I need to deepen the relationship with another 225 people. Fine, no problem. Now you're in control of where your business is. but they're not 400 people that you just met at an open house yesterday. You need to nurture them along in order to get them to transition them from that customer level to that client level relationship. Because somebody you met at an open house yesterday, when you do the video dinner invite, is gonna, no, time out, man, that's just weird, right? So you might have to work them into that stage. Yeah. Does that, I hope that helps.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Philip. One, I want to thank you. I think you brought some really creative ideas to the table, and I see some thank yous in the chat as well. Definitely really impactful. I love the focus on database, but also on how we pivot, right? And right now, I truly believe we've been given a unique opportunity to reconnect with everyone in our database and really just reach out and solidify those relationships and get to the point where someone's okay having Sunday dinner with you, right? So thank you so much for sharing what you're doing, what's working for you, and for taking time out of your busy day to be here with us.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Bye.
Bye.